Thank you very much to beautiful Tumele Mutotwane. She said, Maslilizele, but I want a young man, Baspam afraid. I'm afraid. Also, young women can do it, ne? Yes, not only young men. Thank you so much to the program director. I'm happy to be here. Are you happy to be here? Yes. I'm so happy to be here. Let me really sincerely acknowledge the presence of all of you here this evening. We really appreciate your presence. You can imagine if you did not spare time to come here, we would be talking to the chairs and the tables, and this would be a disaster. But because you are here, it's such a success. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Allow me therefore also to acknowledge those who invited us, and I want to say thank you so much to you, the UJ Library leadership, and the managers in particular. The letters came from Ms. Reneka Pandey, as well as Ms. Muiboni Komane Goliath. But let me also acknowledge everybody, everyone who's part of this wonderful, wonderful gathering of women in leadership facilitated conversation held at the University of Johannesburg. Let me acknowledge the community of UJ, especially the young women students. Are you here this afternoon? Thank you so much for being with us and for attending tonight. The distinguished facilitator, Ms. Lizelle Wilson, who's here with us this evening. The distinguished panelists, my one and only role model, Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize. Madam, thank you so much for being here. You don't know you're my role model, but today you know, because we learn from others, isn't it? Yes, those who've done very, very well for our country and for themselves. Let me also acknowledge Professor Anita Borch, who's here with us. Let me acknowledge Ms. Vera Krill, that I've just met as well this evening. Let me acknowledge Ms. Limpo Munyamane, who's here with us this evening as well. And let me acknowledge the representatives of the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the Citizen newspaper, who are the partners of the UJ Library family. The representatives of all women and other organizations that are present. I know that PWMSA is one large woman organization that represents a lot of women in South Africa, and other associations that are here, other organizations, NGOs, FBOs who are here, Baruti and everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, we are indeed very happy to be here tonight. Let me start by thanking the UJ Library initiators for this auspicious Women in Leadership facilitated conversation in partnership with the Citizen newspaper and the Mandela Foundation. May I, on behalf of the Gauteng government, under the leadership of Honorable Premier David Makura, congratulate the University of Johannesburg for your 10th anniversary. I'm informed that you were merged in 2005. Am I correct? Give yourselves a round of applause for that. I remember when my children were about to go to university, I said to them, why don't you go to UJ? Go to UJ. You know, they said, mommy, let's try vets. One is about to be done at vets, but she says, I want to go to UJ for my honors. Yeah, and she will be coming, hey? I'm saying that because we are indeed proud of UJ for your rich academic profile, which includes moving into the top 4% of universities in the world just in 8 years after being established. Are you good or what in this university? So, may the university and the students sustain your exceptional performance and your growing international stature, because you are not just important here in South Africa, but you are important internationally. Well done to the university. I hope that women in leadership in this university had a role to play to achieve this accomplishment as you continue, this is your slogan, to rethink and reinvent. Malibongwe. Now, using the words of the organizers, and I want to quote Reneke, she says, "It is impossible to respect, to value, and admire great leadership if you can't identify what makes a leader great. The best women leaders have secular vision that enables them to be well-rounded people." And saying that, it actually reminds me, when I was here about a few months ago, we were taken onto a tour at the library. And we were told that this library is forever full of young people. There are people who normally say, black people can't read. If you want to hide money, hide it in a book, because they won't find that. They won't find it. It's not true. What I saw that night, I was with Muiponi, and I don't know who else. I just couldn't believe what I saw. Young students were coming in and out. And these are students not only from UJ. I was told others come from other universities as well. So well done to you young students for reading and for studying, for preparing yourselves. Reneke continues to say, the leaders, the women leaders, have their finger on the pulse of the culture and can talk to you about the latest pop culture news, but then easily switch gears to give you their perspective on what is taking place in the world. One thing is certain: women leaders understand survival, they understand renewal, they understand reinvention. They have grit and are not afraid to fight for what they believe in, or an opportunity to achieve something of significance. They believe in what they stand for, but that doesn't mean they won't put their ideas and ideals to the test. For them, doing more with less is simply a matter of knowing how to strategically activate those around them. So, leadership has nothing to do with your title. By the way, I should have closed the quotation before I proceed. I closed Reneke's quotation. But I want to say that leadership has nothing to do with your title. Just because you are a lecturer, just because you are an MEC, just because you are a doctor, just because you are a lawyer, doesn't necessarily mean that you are a leader. Yeah? Leadership has nothing to do with your seniority. Just because you're the most senior person in your space doesn't really mean that you are a leader. Or that you have people reporting to you. Just because I have so many people reporting to me wouldn't mean that I'm a leader. Yeah? Just because you have reached a certain pay grade, it doesn't mean that you are a leader. Many of us, or many people out there, earn a lot, over $1 million a year. But that still doesn't mean that they are leaders. Leadership is about the social influence you have in your space. If you can't influence that space, know that you are not a leader. And leadership is not about positional power. There's something in government that happens. You know, when I arrive, people are so obsessed with the titles. I'm an HOD, I'm a DDG, I'm a chief director, I'm a chief financial officer. For me, what is important is what they do and what influence they make in their own spaces. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to focus on women in political leadership, because that is the terrain I'm familiar with. I do not want to pretend as if I know what goes on in the corporate world. I do not want to pretend as if I know what goes on in other sectors. So, for many of us who are women in leadership today, we stand on the shoulders of giant, brave women leaders and unsung heroines, not heroines, ne? Did you hear me? I said heroines. We always say heroines. So tonight we talk about heroines of our struggle for freedom and justice in this country, who fit the above description given by Renee earlier on. Amongst others, we want to salute as we celebrate women in leadership during this month of August. Allow us to salute leaders such as Charlotte Maxege, Dora Tamana, Albertina Sisulu. At least you know Mama Albertina Sisulu, ne? Yeah, you don't know many of these stalwarts of our liberation in this country, but saying their names will make you understand that indeed these are the heroines of our struggle for freedom that we are enjoying today. Mama Lillian Goyi, Mama Helen Joseph, Mama Rahima Musa, Mama Sophia Williams de Brains, and she's one of the four. You remember the four ladies that led the march in 1956? Then there's a young lady on the right-hand side. She's the only one who survives of the four who led that march in 1956. Let us celebrate women and mothers such as Frances Barrett, Aida Mtwana, Mutlalebule Chabaku, Ruth Mumpati, Betha Klowa, Winnie Matigizela Mandela, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and many other women, sung and unsung heroines of our struggle, who participated in various struggles, some of whom were members of the Federation of the South African Women. These are women leaders who, as early as 1912, initiated defiance campaigns against discriminatory laws and for emancipation of oppressed men and women. It wasn't just about women. It was also about emancipating women at that time. Remember, this is 1912 we are talking about. These are women who fought for what they believed in. That is a free South Africa for all. Long before the Freedom Charter was adopted, in 1954, at the Feto Founding Congress held here in Johannesburg, they stood for a single society of equal men and women who would join hands to remove social ills such as inequality between rich and poor, the other obstacles, civilization where the status of women is held up high, equal education for boys and girls, for black and white people. They fought to the repeal of laws and practices that enforced the status of a minor upon women. So those days, women were considered as minors. Abantwana, are you together? And that is no more. These are women, stalwarts, who stood for the rights for all to vote, and today we vote, isn't it? And in 2016, young women and men, you are going to vote, isn't it? You have IDs, you have green cards, yes? And you're gonna make good use of those. But you're not gonna talk about who are you voting for, that's your secret, okay? But we may come back if we are invited. We may come back if we are invited and campaign. Right now we are not campaigning. So I was saying that these are women stalwarts who stood for the rights for all to vote, the right to full opportunities for employment with equal pay, equal rights in relation to property. Those days it was men who owned property. If you're a woman, you did not own property. And when your husband dies, your son, your eldest son will be the owner of the house. And you will be a minor under your son. They fought for the rights to marriage and children, protection of mothers and children through maternity homes, crèches, and nursery schools, removal of all laws that restricted free movement and free associations. They fought for permanent peace throughout the world. They had a clear secular vision to end the draconian past laws. These rights and freedoms were not only adopted at the Women's Charter in this conference in 1954, but they were also part of the Freedom Charter, which was adopted in June 1955. Yeah. Also, the Congress of the People in Kliptown, and these rights were part of the demands of the big Women's March in 1956, August the 9th, that we celebrate every year. What is more inspiring and humbling about these brave and selfless women leaders, many of whom died before they could enjoy the fruits of freedom, is that these rights and freedoms are now entrenched in our Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, one of the best constitutions in the world. So these women achieved something of significance. Going back to that quotation, they achieved something of significance. This is what women in leadership do. It is in this context that we celebrate and commemorate the 61st anniversary of the Women's Charter this year, the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the Freedom Charter, and the 59th year anniversary of the Women's March. By the way, the 1956 women leaders of the march strategically activated those around them. That's one of the other qualities. Strategically activated those around them by asking, for example, the domestic workers to carry the children of their madams on their backs during the march. Did you know that? That was a strategy. Domestic workers, women, because many of our mothers and grandmothers were domestic workers, requested them to carry the children that they take care of. Why? So that they cannot be shot at. How strategic was that? Strategy is one quality of women in leadership. Yeah? So this is how great yet humble these women in leadership were. During those days, there were limited resources and no social media to organize themselves, yet the march was attended by 20,000 women from all racial groups. Today, we want to use WhatsApp. We want to use what other social media? Facebook. We use Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. Yeah, those women did not need that. But there were 20,000 women who were part of the march. We salute the women in leadership who took over the baton as well. Now I move away from those women of the past. But we want to salute women like Professor Mkhize here with us and many, many others who have ensured that these rights and freedoms are protected. There's no over there. These rights are protected through promulgation of a plethora of progressive legislation and policies that seek to entrench equal access to socio-economic opportunities for men and women. It was not easy to fight for and decide on the principle, for example, of equity, 50-50 representation in governance and political structure. Professor Mkhize will tell you that we fought a lot to achieve this particular principle of 50-50. There was sweat, there was blood, there was tears in our conferences. Although a lot has been achieved during the past 20 years in line with the Women's Charter, a lot more work still needs to be done. So, recent studies and the report on the status of women developed by the Women's Ministry, remember today we have the Women's Ministry, something that was never there before in the presidency. So that report that has been produced indicates that in South Africa, in respect of efforts to address the challenge of women representation in governance structures and in political arena, there has been tremendous progress in the public sector and the legislatures. As of 2014-15, the number of women in parliament, for example, amount to 41.9%, compared to a mere 2.7% in 1994. Don't you think we have moved? Many strides. That's putting our country at number 7. Putting our country at number 7. Let me go back. Yes, I'll be there just now. It has put our country as number 7 out of 190 countries in the world. This also puts us at number 3 in Africa, behind Rwanda, who stands at number 1 with 63.8%. Really, Rwanda, South Africa, you can do much better than Rwanda. Yeah? Remember the genocide? Just a few years later, 63.8% of women representation in parliament in Rwanda. Senegal, who stands at number 2 with 42.7%, really, Senegal. Huh? South Africa, you can do better. South African women in leadership can do better. This means of the top 10 countries with the highest number of women members of parliament in the world, 3 African countries are in the top 7. Africa indeed is on the rise. The representation of women in national cabinet stands at 43%. That's Professor Mkize and many other ministers. With women deputy ministers at 43%, the National Assembly Speaker is a woman, the public protector, a very fearless, strong woman, is a woman. Our judiciary is comprised of 33% women judges, compared to having only 2 white women judges in 1994. In Gauteng, young women and gentlemen, the cabinet is represented by 60% women. Not just women, but competent women, 60%. We are making steady progress also in education, now that we are at the university. The future looks bright, as we have 99% of learners aged between 7 to 15 years attending school. We must be concerned about the 1% of our children who are not at school. We are also informed that on the overall, women are more successful in their studies, such that in 2007 we are informed 59% of graduates were women, although only 55.5% of enrollments were women. Are we together? Less women register, more women achieve. This is you, we're talking about you here. These are our women leaders of the future. You are our women leaders of the future. I hope that the business panelists will also share with us how South Africa is doing on business women leadership. Like I said, I'm not familiar with that space, but probably one day, I will be a businesswoman. Who knows? Sis Nono will teach me the tricks of being a businesswoman. Furthermore, with regards to civil society, because it's not always about women in politics, women, ordinary women in civil society in general, women continue to be the glue that keeps society together, actively organizing communities against the frontiers of poverty. It was the women who initiated the most basic social unit of staving off poverty and hunger from the doorstep of the poorest communities. These being the Stokvels, an informal social safety network and socio-economic innovation that has since given birth to some of the most thriving and fastest financial institutions in our country today. Indeed, the corporate South Africa has learned a lot from us and will do so for ages to come. Women are mothering the nation in all progressive respects. Let me just fast forward a bit so that I don't take too much of your time. I do want to conclude by saying that, having listened to the history, not history, we must introduce history at UJ. History and her story, isn't it? The courageous and selfless women in leadership before us left a very rich legacy without any expectation for position. They never fought for positions. Unlike today, there's a lot of fights for position, fight for reward. They never fought for any reward. What lessons, therefore, can we take from them regarding women in leadership? I believe that the following are some of the attributes or qualities that make women in leadership great. For example, visionary leadership with a purpose. Those women were women with a vision. These were women who were strategic. These are women who were selfless, putting others before putting themselves. Are we together? These are women who self-sacrificed their life. Many of them died in the process, before they could enjoy the fruits of democracy. Motivating others. If you are a leader, a woman leader, you need to motivate others so that they can also do well. If you get 80% with your studies every month, Don't be happy because you're the best in your class and others are getting 30%, 20%. Pick them up, motivate them so that they can do as better as you are. Believe in what you stand for. Those women believed in what they stood for. Be your authentic self and maintain a balance between family and work. Those women were just doing it, as themselves for other women. And I don't know how they maintained their family and work lives, how they balanced that. They were decisive as a leader. A woman leader, you must be decisive. You must be a deep listener to articulate needs of those you lead. Don't always talk all the time. I'm a male. Other people must listen to her. Listen. Listening is a skill, and it's a very good attribute of women in leadership. Yeah? Serve with integrity. I want to come back to integrity. Build communities. Don't just build your family. If your neighbor, your next door neighbor, don't happy that when I go high, you've got enough food. Care about your next door neighbor. If go at the university, I don't know if you still carry the scarf tin. Yeah? If somebody else doesn't have a scarf tin, talk to that neighbor, share with that learner. Be influential. Going back to influence. Women in leadership influence their spaces. Be patient. Those women waited from 1912, 1954, 1955, and we got freedom when? 1994. So, allow me to end by quoting one of my role model faith women leaders, Bishop Dr. Mnisim Sibi. She doesn't know also that she's also my other role model. So I have a role model in politics, Comrade Professor Khoza here with me. In the faith-based sector, Dr. Mnisim Sibi. My sister in business is my role model. So, Dr. Mnisim Sibi speaks about integrity as a value we all need to restore our democracy in our country. This is an advice for you young women leadership in waiting. She defines this word as follows. Integrity. I stands for be involved in what you believe in. N stands for tough times never last, but tough women in leadership last. E stands for excel in what you do as a woman leader. Give your all and evaluate the impact on those you lead. Yeah? So as women, we've had to work 10 times more than men. Yeah? All the time. So excel in what you do. G stands for do good to your followers and demonstrate good values. R stands for reassure your followers. Resist temptation. Know what God wants from you. I stands for implementation counts. In life, you need to do more. T stands for teach others what you know. Transfer your skills. Y, which is the last alphabet in integrity, means young and old need to complement each other. Young youth can learn wisdom from elders, and elders can learn new knowledge from you young people. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have provoked frank discussion on women in leadership. Remember, our country has made significant strides in socio-economic transformation and also laid a firm foundation for the total emancipation of women and men. Be positive ambassadors. However, much more still needs to be done by all of us towards women and men emancipation. Not only women need to be emancipated, there are men who also need to be emancipated. Let us always remember the words of Tata Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, who said, and I quote, "It is in our hands to take our country forward." I thank you.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.